gonna reach for you.
Alto saxophonist, composer, band leader, hard bop innovator and educator, Jackie McLean with his quintet and with hypnosis. This is the this is among several of his compositions that he recorded in the 1960s, but they were not released until 1978. Jackie McLean died on March the 31st, 2006. This is Leid Stories. I'm Retrice Leid, and we're going straight to Haiti today to update the reports that Kim Ives has been filing with us, covering the continuing unfolding of craziness and violence, and just plain people don't know which way the country is going. But in any event, he has a very good understanding, having covered Haiti for so many years. He's an investigative reporter, an independent documentarian, and editor of the English language editions of Haïti Liberté, the most popular and most widely circulated newspaper in the Haitian diaspora. And he's discussing with us today the current situation in Haiti. Hey, Kim, good to have you with us today.
Hi, Trace. Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
I'm thankful for that. I'm glad that you're safe and that you're doing your work as usual, and that you haven't run into any major catastrophes so far. So, knock on wood, that you continue to be safe. Now, today we're going to take the approach that we don't know anything about Haiti so far, or we know only a little, especially about recent developments. Take us to where the situation is now.
Okay. The thing to really understand, I think, about the current uprising today is that it's really an extension of one that began 33 years ago in 1986, when the dictatorship of Jean-Claude Duvalier, which he had inherited, presidency for life from his father, Francois Papa Doc Duvalier. Jean-Claude was called Baby Doc. That 3-decade-long dictatorship fell on February 7th, 1986, and ever since, the Haitian people have been in a, I could say, prolonged battle for their sovereignty, independence, and democracy and justice. After the 1986 fall of Jean-Claude, neo-Duvalierist regime was put in. That was followed by a lot of coups d'etats in the course of it, of different generals against each other. Briefly, a puppet president was in, et cetera. But it all culminated 4 years later in the election of Jean-Bertrand Aristide. And there began the intervention of, we could say, the United States primarily, but also France and Canada, in Haitian affairs. And that was evidenced most clearly by the 1991 coup d'etat against Aristide, who was elected on December 16th, 1990. And that was followed by a foreign military intervention, thanks to the UN, that lasted until, really 1994, until Aristide was returned. It went beyond 94. It went really till 2000, when Aristide was reelected for a second time. Again, a second coup d'etat, a second military intervention, international intervention. And throughout all this period, Haiti has been sinking deeper and deeper into poverty and ungovernability, because the democratic aspirations of the people, their vote in particular, particularly that first one on December 16th, 1990, has never been allowed by the international community because it was the wrong vote. And so the process was, I could say, interrupted slightly by the arrival of the Cubans and Venezuelans in really shortly after 2000, after 96. But in 2000, there was increased presence of the Cubans. And then in 2006, the Venezuelans came and offered Haiti the Petro-Caribe deal, whereby Haiti would receive all of its oil at incredibly inexpensive prices. They would get fantastic credit. They only had to pay for 60% of the oil up front, and 40% was repayable after 25 years at 1% interest. So this made a huge fund that the Haitians could use to build schools, roads, hospitals, etc. And so really for the past decade, that has kept Haiti afloat, even though the political will of the Haitian people has still not been able to be allowed to exert itself. The government of Michel Martelly was essentially brought in to counter this Petro-Caribe deal in 2011, thanks to Hillary Rodham Clinton, who had been the Secretary of State. The government of Martelly plundered this Petro-Caribe fund to the tune of about $2 billion. They were responsible for taking about three-quarters of the $4.3 billion of oil revenues that the Petro-Caribe gas generated.
Tim, we're not hearing you as clearly as we should. Is there something?
Am I falling out?
Okay.
Okay, is maybe this a little better? I'm trying to adjust the
Yes, it's
position.
a little better.
Maybe there.
Right.
Okay. Um, okay. So in short, the Martelly government plundered this money, did not actually provide the projects or see through the projects. They made a lot of bogus projects, projects that had nice names about helping the people, building houses for mothers and so forth, but they were mostly channeling the money to their friends and family, millions and millions of dollars. Well, let's bring it now to today. This plundering of the Petro-Caribe funds started to come to light in 2017. And in 2018, the movement really kicked off. And during the latter half of 2018, there were huge, huge demonstrations asking, where did the money go, the Petro-Caribe money? Now, understand in this big picture that this is really a continued extension of this democratic revolution that began in 1986. The people still realize they've had neo-devaluists after neo-devaluists imposed on them, most recently the Martelly government, and now his mentor, Jovenel Moise. And these neo-devaluers have been the ones plundering this money. So the people are madder than hornets, and they've been out in the streets. The most, what's called the Cour supérieure des comptes, it issued a report. It's a little bit like the General Accounting Office here in the United States. Issued a report. The first part of it came out in January 31st. And on February 7th, there were 10 days of demonstrations that basically locked Haiti down. We talked on Leid stories about it at the time, and it looked almost at that time as if Jovenel would have to leave. The second report came out on May 31st, and on June 15th, there began demonstrations around the country. Why? Because in that report, it was detailed that Jovenel Moise, the current president, his name or the names of his companies were named 69 times as people who benefited from this plunder of the Petro-Caribe funds in the form of his businesses would double bill for the building of roads in the north of Haiti from Bon to Tibourg-Boin, which were never built. Nothing was done, and yet they were built twice. So he got about $1.7 million to fix a road that he never fixed. And this is just one of the many examples in the report of Jovenel Moise's involvement. There were other smaller ones concerning the installation of solar panels. And, of course, there's the UCREF report, which detailed his money laundering. We've talked about that on this show. Again, he decapitated the people who came with that report, put in his own people, and they eventually exonerated him, so-called, supposedly. But this is what the people are so mad about. And so beginning on the 15th, we've really seen many, it hasn't been permanent, it hasn't been every single day, but every Sunday, for instance, a day before yesterday, thousands were out in the streets in Port-au-Prince, in Cape Haitian, and Okai, in Jacmel, around the country, in many parts of the countryside, demanding Jovenel to step down. And so this is where we are. The people are sick of the neo-devaluist governments continuing to deny them their political choice, which has been generally not the PHTK, but other parties, particularly the Lavalas sector related to Jean-Bertrand Aristide, and the plunder of this exceptional solidarity which the Venezuelans provided Haiti, basically $4.3 billion over the course of a decade from 2008 about till 2018.
So it is no exaggeration to say that for more than 33 years, Haitians have been struggling to be free of a succession of oppressive governments, larcenous governments, governments that are uh, the, raiding the pot and taking the money. Nobody knows where the money is going. But at the same time, it appears that Haiti got extraordinary protection and coverage from outside forces. Could you talk about that and why it also is to be seen as a factor in this long, drawn out fight between the people to exercise their rights as citizens and the resistance of a succession of Haitian governments who have been shored up by outside forces?
Right. We should say it's the neo-Duvalierist governments which have been shorn up. The anti-imperialist governments, or the governments which have maybe a higher degree of nationalism, are given coups d'etats and military occupations. But essentially, since 2011, the regime has been that of the PHTK, what's called the Haitian Bald-Headed Party. And again, just to remind the listeners, some of them may remember this, but there was an election in Haiti after the earthquake, November 2010 and March 2011. And after that, November 2010, there were two candidates that came out of it, a woman called Mirland Manigat, and then President René Préval's protege, a fellow called Jude Celestin. But Washington was mad at Préval because he'd made this deal and worked with the Venezuelans, and this was detailed in a series of articles we did at Haiti Liberté with documents provided to us by WikiLeaks. They gave it to us exclusively. We worked with them, and we showed how Washington was trying to sabotage the Petro-Caribe deal. But essentially, they wanted to get the Préval sector out of power and another sector in, so they sabotaged Jude Celestin. Hillary Clinton flew down in January 2011, told Préval, listen, you got to remove Celestin and put in Martelly, who came in. And those governments are the ones that have been shored up. Now, it was interesting, Utrice, that Jovenel, last year, in 2018, was having huge demonstrations, much like the ones we see going on right now, against him, and he was looking very shaky. And I think he and his crew were pretty scared. In January, the U.S. government was not coming to their defense in any strong way. They were sitting back with their arms folded. Why? Because Jovenel was still not voting with Washington against Nicolas Maduro and against the Venezuelans, who had provided Haiti with so much solidarity. It wasn't until January 10th of this year that at the OAS that the Haitians voted with Washington, saying that Nicolas Maduro was illegitimate. A president who got more than 60% of the vote against, and this is a president in Haiti who got less than 10% of the electorate's vote. So this shows us exactly how much that the pressure and bullying of Washington has brought the Jovenel government to heel. So since they've now towed the line and become a good lackey, the Trump administration has been sending a constant stream of officials, undersecretaries of state, this, that, and the other thing, to go each week to Haiti. And even Jovenel went up to Mar-a-Lago in March and met with Trump at his estate there. So we see a lot of support from Washington. I think that's the main thing that Jovenel is counting on to keep him in power. But at the end of the day, as I was saying to a meeting we had at Haiti Liberté yesterday, if Jovenel cannot gain control of the country, of the streets, if Haiti remains ungovernable, they'll ditch him. They'll get rid of him, no matter how much he has bent over for Washington, because he's beginning to lose his effectiveness. So I think the shoring up may end up turning to heaving out Jovenel and bringing in another team that can hopefully placate the masses, at least for a while they figure out a new arrangement.
Does it strike you as ironic that the Clinton approach resembles very closely the Trump approach?
Well, in fact, and many have noted this, that for all the differences, Republicans and Democrats, or the globalists, if you will, of the Clinton-Obama ilk, compared to the nationalists of the Trump ilk, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to repressing foreign upstarts, they're pretty much united. And in fact, Trump has doubled down on a lot of the very aggressive and anti uprising measures that the Obama administration took against Haiti. Trump has been, in the case of particularly Venezuela, and as we can see today, in the case of Iran, has been just as aggressive, if not more so, than the Clinton-Obama people, because of his, two hawks that he has as his front line, John Bolton, National Security Advisor, and Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. These two guys want a war, I think both with Venezuela and Iran, and, the policies are more or less moving us in that direction.
Is there any influence that the expatriates have in the situation? Are there people outside of Haiti, and of course being Haitians themselves, who are trying to get a handle on what is going on?
Well, the big problem right now, Utrice, is that there's no clear alternative. And a lot of even progressives who are anti-Jovenel are saying, well, we can't really get Jovenel out now because there is no alternative. And there have been, I could say, core of the Haitian left, which has been meeting in Haiti, in cities around Haiti, as well as in New York and Miami. They've been talking, and they're working to build a party which will be able, hopefully, to provide the leadership that is needed at this moment. Because right now, the opposition, just to thumbnail it for the listeners, there are basically two groups. One is one called the Democratic and Popular Sector, headed by a very charismatic lawyer named Andre Michel and his wife. And it's also been joined by a number of figures from the Lavalas sector, even though the Lavalas itself officially, the Lavalas family party, officially distances itself from the Democratic and Popular sector. Andre Michel, though, is controversial because he was also part of the coup d'etat against Aristide. So in any case, I can say that this particular sector doesn't have the full confidence of the people. The other is a group more or less headed by former Senator Moise Jean Charles, who at one point was considered to be the sort of heir apparent to Aristide, but they are now at daggers drawn. Moise built his own party called the Petit Dessalines, the Dessalines Children Party. And he, however, has had a lot of problems by making alliances with right-wing figures that inevitably betray him and have really made a lot of people question his political judgment and his political tactics. So right now there is no strong opposition leader or unified opposition, and that's really what many of the people on the Haitian left, including a lot of people from the Lavalas Family Party, or I should say ex-members of Lavalas Family Party and Petit Dessalines, have been sitting and meeting over the past year. So yes, the expatriates are, especially in the age of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, etc., are in daily contact and coordination with the resistance on the ground. And so hopefully soon, they were going to roll it out next month, but it looks like they're looking more towards December or January. We'll see a new party emerge, which we hope can provide a strong and clear leadership in this moment of turmoil.
Even so, what about groups that one would expect would be very active in trying to broker something of a peace or some kind of an agreement? I'm talking about the Caribbean Organization of Caribbean States. I'm talking about even in the United States and under the auspices of, I shudder as I say it, the United Nations. But are there no independent groups who are trying to find a way to bring the splinters of whatever it is that can still work together? Are you hearing anything?
Yes. So the essential strategy of the UN, of the OAS, of CARICOM, of all the groups I could say in the U.S. orbit has been to promote negotiations. Let's have dialogue. Let's talk it out. Let's find a compromise. Basically, the opposition has rejected this because the people reject it. The people are fed up. They just want the neo-devaluists out. This is very similar, Utrice, to what we saw 33 years ago. The people were so sick of the devaluists, of the monopoly the devaluist regime with its Tonton Macoute paramilitary had in power. They put it in the Constitution in 1987 after the uprising, saying that devaluists could not hold political power for 10 years. This was very much what sold that Constitution, which was filled with lots of flaws and problems and contradictions that plague Haiti to this day. So essentially the underlying sentiment of the Haitian people, Utrice, is very anti-imperialist. They want the U.S., France, Canada, the UN out of Haiti to stop running their elections, undermining their votes, bringing in peacekeepers, quote unquote, etc. And right now, the final UN peacekeepers are supposed to leave on October 15th. That's the MINUJUST, which took over from what was called the MINUSTA, the first UN peacekeeping mission in 2004. They were deployed, but they were replaced in 2017 by the MINUJUST, and that is supposed to finish. Finally, Haiti will not have foreign armed soldiers. Currently, they're in the form of policemen and women in Haiti as of October 15th, supposedly. But we're watching this situation very closely, and won't be surprised if somebody or some nation, being the U.S., comes and tries to reactivate the Chapter 7 of the UN Charter to have peacekeepers continue on in Haiti, saying that the situation is too chaotic. So all of this is simply to say that I think the international community, which is, I could say, code for the U.S. and its allies, the Haitian people don't want them around. Of course, countries which are not under their control, like Cuba, Venezuela, are already at war with Washington in one way or another. And these, by the way, are the people, Cuban doctors, Venezuelan, technicians of one sort and another, who the Haitian people really do welcome and really do appreciate. So I think, unfortunately, we've arrived at a revolutionary situation where there's really no way to put the genie back in the bottle. And as much as they ask for dialogue and negotiations, I don't think it's in the cards.
I was going to ask you about the impact, the ripple effect of what's going on in the region generally. We have great unrest. We saw it come to a head in Venezuela. It's not over yet. We have the situation in Haiti, and we have other trouble spots throughout the Caribbean region. Is there a sense that at some point soon, people will begin to see the commonalities of all of these struggles and begin to take a different approach, not a country-by-country approach, but a larger approach, and encouraging all of these afflicted countries and islands to come together to see if it is possible to forge a new day?
Well, I think that, and we wrote about that quite extensively in Haiti Liberté, and it was picked up by a lot of media, about the commonalities and links between the Venezuelan revolution ongoing and the Haitian revolution that is happening today, that is ongoing. Primarily through the sort of collateral damage that happened, that when Trump slapped sanctions on Venezuela in 2017, this essentially made it impossible for the Haitians to pay for their Petrocaribe gas they were receiving, and that was what killed the Petrocaribe Accord. And now the results are that they have no gas, there's double-digit inflation, double-digit unemployment, people are hungry and angry, and they are trying to staunch this wound by sending in the IMF, the usual handmaiden of the U.S., to give them, earlier this year, in March, a $229 million no-interest loan. But the situation is so degenerated that the Prime Minister, as I think we will recall from a previous show, in March, had to resign. That was Jean-Henri Séant, and he was replaced by an interim prime minister, Jean-Robert Lapin. But Lapin has never been able to be ratified, in part due to the concerted opposition of some Lavalas and Petit Dessalines deputies, 4 of them, and also dissension among the PHTK allies for influence and bribes, etc. So this money that is supposed to be coming from the International Monetary Fund can't be dispersed because there's no government to disperse it to. So they're very upset about that. And I think that all of this is being observed by countries around the region. The Venezuelans and the Haitians definitely have a kind of I could say, symbiotic relationship, but there were many, you can see it again in the pages of Haiti Liberté, there were many Haitians carrying Venezuelan flags in the demonstrations, because one of the sparks of the demonstrations this past year, beginning in February, was that, betrayal that Jovenel gave to the Venezuelans. Now, for the other islands, it's also happening because if you look across the border at Dominican Republic, gas is now up to $5 a gallon there. There's a lot of people who are losing jobs, and things are very tight. Again, a lot of corruption in that government, too. So I think, it'll be a while before we see Haitians and Dominicans working together, but definitely the Haitians and the Venezuelans realize that they're fighting the same beast, and I think are, I don't know, in terms of materially, practically, that they're able to assist each other, but in terms of spirit, they're definitely realize they're fighting shoulder to shoulder.
Uh-huh. Well, Kim, I want to thank you for setting aside some of your very limited time these days to talk with us today and to give us an update on what's happening in Haiti. You are, in my view, one of the most knowledgeable reporters of Haiti and the region, because this is what you do. You follow the news in great detail, and you have a handle on it that most reporters do not. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the generosity of your time, making yourself available, even though you yourself are operating on a strict timeline these days. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for being always there, and we're glad to be your sort of unofficial correspondent for Haiti for Leid Stories.
Thank you. All right, we'll take this break and come back right after this. You're listening to Leid Stories on PRN.FM. I'm Utrice Leid. President Donald Trump says he will begin, starting next week, to eradicate illegal immigration into the country. His plan calls for millions of arrests, he says. So are we seeing the return of prison camps? What do you think of the president's announced plan? And is this policy, or is it somehow going to be massaged into policy? And what is the significance of the announcement by Donald Trump that this is what he's going to do as of next week? Your calls at 646-922-8391 or the old familiar 888-874-4888. 646-922-8391 or 888-874-4888. What is the significance of this announcement, you think? And how are you yourself personally reacting to it? If you care to share your thoughts about it. It is not unexpected that the president would do something dramatic to put himself ahead of the candidates who are running. And you do that by making bizarre announcements that are sure to get mass coverage, and with the mass coverage, reasonable assurance that you will get your constituency excited and to keep them close. So that's one thing, but there's so much riding on this. I just wanted to find out your reaction, your visceral reaction to this announcement. Ma'at, you're on the air.
Yes, greetings, beloveds.
Thank you.
I just, I'm gotten to the point now when he comes on air or whatever, I turn away. It's just some more lunacy. Where's he going to put 1 million people? I mean, it's just beyond
Maybe
lunacy.
he's going to put them on barges and send them out to sea and keep them anchored out there.
Must be, and no matter what happens, the Democrats seem so fragmented and scattered. I mean, he admitted on Thursday that yes, he would continue the collusion, and it just goes on and on. But I want to clarify something that I thought about and said yesterday. When I said greetings to African descendants, I was not excluding David or somebody like Medea Benjamin who understands who the wars are waged against, because if the truth be told, everyone, I mean, the root of Homo sapiens, this whole idea that there's such thing as white people is a lie and a delusion, okay? And
well,
David,
we don't want to get into that. We want to, I'm ferocious about staying on point, staying on topic.
I don't have too much more to say than lunacy in terms of Donald Trump, but I just wanted to clarify. I know David, who understands about phenotypes and race being a status
You're
code.
taking us right back there again.
Oh, okay, but I just wanted to clear that up.
No, because this is a subject I want to have, because personally I was offended yesterday. And I didn't have the time to fully explain it, but I intend to explain it because it's very important. I will not have anybody get on this program and say, hello, African people.
Well, I'm talking about the whole planet.
And then I ask, are you not talking, you only talking to African people? And essentially the answer was, yeah. Then
no, that's not what I meant.
I'm not saying you said it. I'm not saying you said it. But it was said. And it was very offensive. And I want to make really clear. So I want to take my time. I probably will do that tomorrow. I want to take my time and explain that we're not going to have that. Not on this program. This is a program for everybody. It's a gathering place for the exchange of information, opinions, and ideas. I talk about that all the time. And we're not going to have the phony nationalism of people saying, well, I called to just talk to black people. Then go on a station where they talk only to black people. But not here. And as a host, at the very least, one would expect that you still have enough brain cells to remember that the host of this program is a black woman. And that the automatic assumption that this is okay, this behavior is okay, insulting people by omission, or we're not going to have that. So we'll have a discussion tomorrow. I'm not saying you did it, but we're going to have a discussion tomorrow simply to amplify that phony nationalism has no place here. Certainly not on my program. We're not going to do that. Everybody should be able to conduct a discussion in a civilized way, even if you have strong opinions, but not hateful ones, and not ones that raise the old canard of black versus white and who is better and who is more superior and who has more validity to feel bruised. No. That's not what we are supposed to be about here. Certainly I won't have it. I didn't have the time yesterday to go into it, but I certainly will address it because it was profoundly offensive to me yesterday. And I imagine I'm not the only one. Thanks a lot for your call. Bill from Brooklyn, you're on the air. what do you read into Trump's move?
Yes, good afternoon, Utrice, and thank
Hello.
you for clarity on that. Hi, thank you for clarity on that. Every once in a while, we do have to go to the woodshed, but but in terms of Mr. Trump's proclamation about rounding up millions of so-called illegals and deporting them, it's terrible. It's offensive. It's illegal, and yes, we are headed to a point where we could be, actually, I think we already do have concentration camps. I mean, they're talking about putting kids who are immigrants, or from immigrant families, and former Japanese camps that were held here in this country. And this morning, waking up and listening to some of all the nonsense, I for the first time, had a true existential terror of perhaps even myself and others like us being put into concentration camps as someone who speaks out and who is becoming more and more of an activist. And so yes, it's killing, and he's got to be called on it, and it's got to be resisted.
Well, but from a point of view, do you see any parallels here between how Trump is proceeding in the conduct of his re-election bid? What is he doing? The use of media, mass media, to affect mass opinions. Do you see any parallels here with anything else?
Well, the McCarthy era. I mean, that's one thing that comes back from my high school sort of history lessons. Sort of trying to castigate people as unwanted, as a threat to the security of the nation, trying to make it an us versus them kind of situation, and using the media to conduct that.
And all of a sudden, the media can't figure this out. They can't even address the unusual tone that the president is taking. Okay, so you want to round up illegal people. Okay. Undocumented people. Fine. Okay. But look at what he's saying. Look at the tone. Look at the inferences.
Right. Mm-hmm. And some of those so-called undocumented persons are from Ireland, from Canada, from Australia.
Look, his own mother was undocumented.
So what about them?
His grandfather was undocumented. In fact, there was a whole posse looking for his grandfather to arrest him for deserting the military, deserting the army. So it's very unusual, and in a bit, it's macabrely amusing that this president has no sense of memory at all. To say, well, my gosh, I shouldn't be talking this way. Practically, his whole family was illegal.
Exactly, including probably some of his wife's relatives who are probably here, as unbeknownst to us.
Yeah. So, but it says something about, nonetheless, he's reading correctly.
Mm-hmm.
He's reading the unspoken truths that are in the hearts of many, many Americans.
Absolutely.
It's hatred. He's done a masterful job of it. And he's going to ride this all the way to 2020. And I don't see that this is going to be let up unless people hit the streets.
And they must, and we must at some point. And I know you're frustrated at the lackadaisical attitudes that many of us in the public generally have, and being very passive. I have fantasies of people descending with torches by the millions in Washington on Capitol Hill and the White House and saying enough, and not to do any violence, but to make a stand that this will not be tolerated.
No, and we really haven't taken on that task, which is, I think, the task of any concerned citizen, to become very, very animated when things go wrong.
Yes.
Because with silence, they go even more wrong.
Absolutely.
So,
and that day is
Bill,
coming. Thank you.
Thank you for your call today. Well, we have room for one more call if you call in now, but we're winding down so that we can end on time. You just listen to the tone. His whole administration now has been enculturated in a way of seeing the world, and they are perfectly at ease with the idea of otherness. The people they don't want, they see as others, and they can get rid of them and not flinch. You know, it's a story I read yesterday, just a quick thing before we go, about a bear, a young bear that was shot dead. Why was it shot dead? Because people began feeding it, and the bear became more and more used to contact with humans and so forth. And people would even pose for selfies with the bear. Now, we could argue that this is not normal on the part of the people doing this. So to avoid the chance that this bear may have a most unusual affinity toward humans, which could be turned on its head, and the bear could become unpredictably violent. In order to avoid all of that, they just killed it. And they were very proud to say that they acted in the interest of the community. We murdered a bear. Now, did they have to? Does that not illustrate our unwillingness to see where the fault really lies, and therefore, which is the most efficient way to correct it? No. To solve the problem, kill the bear. And that's the attitude that they've had all these years. Thanks so much for tuning in today and contributing, and we'll meet up again tomorrow. Bye-bye.